Shout out to Stardust. Stardust is great.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant.
Heard great things about it.
It's really, really good.
Young Charlie Cox in there.
Yes, and a Henry Cavill. A blink and you miss it, Henry. Well, not really. He's in a scene, but
A long blink.
A nod off, and you'll miss it, Henry Cavill.
A nap and you'll miss it.
And you'll miss it, Henry Cavill. So at my screening last night for Fountain of Youth, which I'll be reviewing today, Apple TV Plus screening, which they always got good money. It was an Everyman, that one near Borough Market, which you sort of go down into. Free pizza on arrival, lovely goodie bag, and as always with these things, a very lovely person from PR from some company who's hosting the event will come out ahead of the screen and say, "Hi guys, thank you so much for coming today." And they usually say something on the lines of, "Please refrain from using your phone, X and Y. We'll be playing the film. Share your thoughts here and there."
Have you noticed they always say the same sentence, which is insert movie studio takes film piracy very seriously.
Yes,
It's always that line.
There's one comment where he said, "And if you guys could just keep talking to a minimum, that would be great." And I said, I think audibly, to a minimum.
Yeah.
No, it's
no talking.
No talking. That's a bad invitation to say you can talk, but just as long as it's to a minimum.
No, yeah,
I'm sure it was a slip of the words, but I went to a minimum. Like in the middle of the crowd, like having my popcorn.
Yeah.
Like I want to stand up and be like, it should be refrain from talking at all.
Yeah,
is the statement. So that was something that really perked me up as a sort of fucking annoying podcaster who sees films every week. But I didn't like the precedent it would set for that screening. Luckily, talking wasn't an issue.
Because if someone was nattering behind you, they'd be like,
it's at a minimum. That's per the rules.
I'm at 10%.
And I stand up and say, well, the rules were wrong in the first place.
But also, I see a point. You don't want to stand up and go, "Excuse me, I know you've invited me to this preview screening for free and have given me really, really nice goodie bag and food and drinks. But could you actually rephrase what you've just said? I'm James, by the way."
I'll be honest. The volume I said there was like, to a minimum.
Yeah.
That was the volume.
Nice.
That was the volume. The person I was with had a good laugh. We were both like wondering. And then I had this other incident, unfilm related. On the tube home, in the London Tube, there is like the three seat configuration in the middle of a carriage.
Yes, very specific to
sort of Jubilee line, Northern Line. You'll find this sort of 8-3-8 configuration.
Yes.
And I was in the middle, I was on the side, sat down in the 3x3. And this guy comes and sits down in the middle of the 3x3 and all of the seats are occupied. It's not a busy train. And he starts saying hello to everyone. And he goes, "Hello, is nobody going to say hello to me?" And to be fair, like everyone did, like say, "Oh, hi, you're right." And he said, "It's London. Nobody talks to anyone on the tube in London." But everyone did say hello. And he went on this diatribe saying, "Where I'm from, everyone says hello to everyone. Why do you think nobody says hello to everyone?" And it was like a kind of person I would have loved to have ignored. But because it was like he was very much asking me, I was like, "Oh, no, I'm very happy to say hi." And he said, "Well, why didn't people say hello?" Because he kept pushing it. I was like, do you know what? Some people don't say hello because it would be exhausting if you did this all day, every day, and you saw 5,000 people. And he just went on this diatribe about people from London or from any city not being friendly.
Where was he from?
And he was from not even that far away, like home counties.
Right.
But he was just like kept bugging this woman. I later did smell alcohol in his breath, but he had this like
all right, police report.
Yeah, like he did. I did. Like when he did the thing, we ran really close. He was like, "You know the thing about me and you, yeah." And because I would have happily ignored him, he went on this long thing about like people in the city not speaking to each other. And I did engage him, and I said, honestly, my experience of people in London is that they are friendly, but often they've got somewhere to be. Yeah. It's the same reason why when you're at Heathrow Terminal 5, you don't stop and say hello to everyone you're speaking to. Yeah. Everyone is there because they're usually busy, trying to go through somewhere, to get to their gate, to go get some food, to go to buy something. It's not that people are rude or unfriendly.
Also, his argument is completely flawed because, first of all, he's the reason people don't say hello to each other.
Yes.
Because that is an odd thing to do.
And he wasn't bad, but usually somebody who confronts people on the tube is a red flag.
Yeah.
That's a red flag person. So people have a defense mechanism of like, I just want to get home. I don't want to be confronted. And there was a young woman, he was like asking questions to.
This kind of irks me because it's not like he's saying, it'd be different if I like, for example, you went to buy a coffee and you had a lot of, like I just told you when I arrived today, right? Yeah. I had some FaceTime with the barista and we were having a nice conversation.
Of course,
now, if he stared at me in stone cold silence while he poured the milk into the cup, I'd be a bit like, "Oh, it's not very friendly."
Yeah.
But he didn't do that, right?
No.
But the tube is not an opportunity to talk to people.
First of all, it's very loud as well.
Transport. Yeah, but also, that's not limited to London. If you get a train anywhere, if you get a plane anywhere, if you're in a lift, you don't usually engage in conversation with other people because
people have somewhere to be, and it's exhausting. And if you,
it's not an office, it's a system of transport.
Totally. Like if you come in once a month and you're on the tube and like nobody said hello to me, it's like because if you take the tube twice a day and you stop to say hello every single time, that would be exhausting.
Why would you say hello to a complete stranger?
And that's the thing.
But why would you say hello?
Exactly.
Anyway, even if you're walking down the street in the middle of the rural Cotswolds.
Exactly. I think there's more of a you'd say hello to someone because you're less likely to have encountered a person.
Sure,
like you know on a mountain path, you cross someone, you go, oh hi,
yes,
you're
true,
right.
True,
That's normal, but. I really get annoyed when people have this bee in their bonnet about people who live in cities not being friendly. Like you can say the same about people say the same about New York City, but New York is famous for having some of the nicest, like friendly people in the world. And if you boil down what a city is at its primary function, it's people who have chosen to live in close proximity to each other so that they can communicate and get things done. If you want to just like macro out, that's what a city is, right? And trading routes and ports.
Yeah,
it's like so we can work together to do things without a commute. And so I get annoyed when people are like, nobody talks to anyone. Like in a lot of ways, the city is the ultimate choice, or like we're working in a city, living in a city, to engage in spontaneity and talk to someone. And he just wouldn't let it go, and I didn't buy his argument.
His argument is completely flawed, and I just kind of throw it out.
Are you going to say
outright.
hello to me?
Well,
what about you? Are you going to say hello to me? Nobody wants to say hello to me, but everyone did.
But I reject his argument entirely. That to expect that. It's not even like, but I see what you're saying. Like you're trying to engage in his argument and say, why everyone's really busy. But I'm just like, that's not how human beings operate anywhere, in any place.
It's inefficient.
It's just not. That's not how people conduct themselves in those environments.
Yeah.
People have often said, like, all cities, like London, for example, people are like creme brulee, which is that you have a hard exterior on the top, but underneath, and like
people are people.
People. And actually, I've had nice moments. And we were on the tube and I went to a thing the other day, and the guy got up from the seat and he went, "You look very stylish." And I was like, thank you very much. Complete stranger. Yeah. And you are hyper connected to all the people around you, for better and for worse. Okay, you don't need to be saying hello to someone because, sure enough, they're going to be breathing in your space as you cling in a sardines tube anyway.
And it's bad. You don't know if you're going to get off on the next stop. I don't want to tell you my life story. You might be going in 20 seconds.
Because it's different to saying people aren't friendly. That's different. That's different. It's like if by saying people don't say hello in that way.
And what's annoying is
this guy just wanted attention.
He just wanted attention.
He just wanted to be like, "Oh, hey everyone, I'm just trying to be a nice guy."
I would have loved to ignore him, but he kept being like, well, and to ignore him would have been like, I think he potentially could have got annoyed. So I was like, no, I'll just speak to you. He's like, why aren't people speak to you? I said, I think people are just busy, and it's strange.
Yeah.
But people are just happy to do their own thing. Yeah. But I just unrelated film rant there.
Yeah.
About people just like not quite getting the crux of what unfriendly city life is. And also my experience of walking from Borough Market Everyman to the tube. It was Thursday night, the sun was shining, it was still light at 8, 9 o'clock. People were outside laughing, drinking together, environment, people buzz, friendliness, spontaneity, fun, connection, networking. Anyway.
Buzzwords.
Synergy.
Anyway.
Should we talk about films?
Let's talk about films. Well, welcome to episode 182 of Pulp Kitchen.
It is, indeed.
Last week we reviewed Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Big movie at the moment. Check out our review if you haven't listened to it already. But if you have, send in your emails and your thoughts. We'll probably get to that in the emails already this week.
All our emails we read in the review were actually largely positive. Of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Largely negative.
Disappointed, yes.
You're disappointed. It's like it's not a bad film. I think the main theme of our review was massive disappointment, I'd say.
And stepping away from one massive film last week, we now have 3 smaller films. I mean, Fountain of Youth is a high budget, but I guess it's because it's Apple TV, it's kind of limited audience in that respect.
I'll get onto it.
So we'll be speaking about, as James mentioned, Fountain of Youth, which is this big globe-trotting film coming out on Apple TV+.
Yeah, it's the sort of, they're bringing back the adventure movie. If you like National Treasure and Tomb Raider and Uncharted and things where you pull a stone lever and a stone door falls and they have those torches that never seem to go. They actually use like electronic torches, but I'm talking about the theme. You pull the lever and you look for the clues and they all link up. Look on the map. That's where it's one of those.
Nice. We'll also be reviewing new Wes Anderson movie, The Phoenician Scheme, starring all of his mates that are always in all of his films.
Pull the list down.
Yeah, pull the list down. Everyone in a nice square.
Benicio del Toro.
etc.
Cera.
And we'll be talking about British film The Ballad of Wallis Island, starring Kerry Mulligan, Tim Key, Tom Basden. We had a chance to speak to the cast at Sundance earlier this year, which was great. They were lovely.
Before we knew the film, they were really promoting at that stage.
Yes. And it's out, so we'll be reviewing that as well. So you've got 3 films today, guys. 3 films, whereas last week you just had one.
One big one.
One big one. This is a quick message brought to you in partnership with our friends at Airbnb.
So, George, the summer is coming.
Yes, I can feel it. Longer days, brighter days, but I'm in desperate need of a holiday, James.
Yeah, me too. I've got some nice trips coming up, though. I'm going to Spain, Cape Town, and, of course, Glastonbury very soon.
You love Glastonbury. Your yearly pilgrimage to Glastonbury.
I cannot wait. What about you? Have you got any fun trips coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to Florida at the end of the year as normal. Then I'm going to Spain quite soon as well. I'm already looking at nice Airbnbs we can stay at.
Well, yeah, Airbnb is not just for finding a place to stay. It's also for hosting your flat while you're away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really keen to do this more, actually, when I'm away this year.
It's a great way of earning some extra cash, and you can put some of that money towards the next holiday, flights, maybe even a nice meal. And plus, I don't think a lot of people realise how easy it is to do.
Yeah, I love the idea of being sat in a nice European city with a cocktail, thinking, I've got a little bit of extra cash coming in on the side. Especially as it's so straightforward, because like my flat is just sat at home empty anyway. I might as well use it.
Exactly. It's holidaying the smart way. Plus, you can set when you want to do it and how long you want to do it for.
Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much by going to airbnb.co.uk/host. James, before we review the Phoenician Scheme, or before we jump into it really, can we just run through where we stand on Wes Anderson as a director? My experience of being a film fan is that I know people who are real diehard Wes Anderson fans, particularly at university. I met a lot of people who were like, oh my God, I love him. I've got a coffee table book of him. I want to be like him. Because he's not just like a film director. He seems to be a whole aesthetic movement in himself. I think he's a director who, to a lesser extent, people like Luca Guadagnino you associate with having a set style and something you want to kind of emulate. It's not just a film, it's an aesthetic choice.
Also, do you remember 2 years ago, Wes Anderson's style on social media exploded in that trend of shooting and imitating Wes Anderson, which I think was nice. It was like, obviously, everyone tipping their hat to Wes Anderson, but it became this, like, people were doing their travel videos and their food reviews in perfect lines of symmetry.
Wes Anderson, independent American filmmaker from Texas, who broke out in the 90s and has always been his own style, his own project. His films are kind of set in a sort of timelessness, and some are almost like bordering on fantasy in terms of how not relating to reality they are. Bottle Rocket in 1996 with Owen Wilson, etc. That's his first movie. Have not seen, James?
No, I think I've seen 5 or 6 Wes Anderson's total, I'd say.
Rushmore, which is a lot of people's favourite. Jason Schwartzman as a school pupil, Olivia Williams as his teacher, Bill Murray in there. I watched that. I remember distinctly. I was getting into film when I was a teenager. I just started working, so I was just able to get like my first paycheck, and it's American, pay slip, and I bought Rushmore, and I was really, really disappointed with it. I personally find myself jarring with Wes Anderson's style a little bit. It kind of hit and miss. So I was disappointed by that. But the next film, The Royal Tenenbaums, I really did like. And what I think I liked about The Royal Tenenbaums is what Wes Anderson does best, which is, yes, it's whimsical, but there is kind of like an emotional heart to it as well. It's about damaged people and trying to find a new family.
That cuts through the style ultimately and reconnects with humanity. My favourite ones like that and Grand Budapest have always done that to the best.
Because you think about like the ending of Grand Budapest, it's a little bit of a gut punch actually. It sort of ends like literally with a train coming to a halt. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Loads of heart in Grand Budapest between the main characters and where it really counts.
Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which I've only seen once. It's fun, then there's the Darjeeling Limited, which is Adrian Brody, Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman, which is okay. But I remember, I feel like it's along with the Royal Tenenbaums, it's set in like outdoors a lot. I feel like we've got used to Wes Anderson setting everything inside on a studio set where all the backgrounds are made of cardboard. But it's set in India, and it kind of has a really strange tone. There's like a massive tragedy halfway through that's really bizarre, but it's not bad. He's made a lot of short films. Fantastic Mr. Fox I thought was okay, but I'm like I felt like they'd taken this kind of beloved children's thing and made it very sort of hipsterfied.
Strange, I like seeing the footage of George Clooney with a beard in a t-shirt and trackies running around a field doing the sound. So I love how like bootleg sound tech is even at the highest level. Like the guys that did Dune just like going to desert and just punching the sand to make some things like that. That's what goes into it.
Moonrise Kingdom, which is a lot of people's favourite, which is a huge gap in my knowledge. I haven't seen that. I know people really like that. Grand Budapest, which I think is a lot of people's favourite. I do
my
think it's a
favourite.
great movie.
Yeah, really
really
great.
fun. Isle of Dogs, I haven't seen.
I really liked it. Saw it like at a preview screening when I worked in television. I had a really positive experience. It is a bit sort of like plotty and knotty, and takes a while to get going. But it's got sort of great heist elements. It's one of the funnier ones I've watched. So I do recommend Isle of Dogs. Actually, it's as one of his animated ones.
Yeah, another one of his animated
Stop
ones.
motion,
It's a type of animation. So,
Yeah, of course.
like Fantastic Mr. Fox. And then I feel like post-COVID, I feel like his films have sort of... I haven't seen The French Dispatch or Asteroid City, but they became sort of diminishing returns from what I was
Asteroid
getting
City
people.
didn't do much for me at all. I will say, as far as his aesthetic and production design,
picture book
it's
aesthetic.
some of the most impressed I've been, and I feel like it was. Everything was on a wider, broader scale,
Yes.
and the distance between the closest things to the camera and the furthest things away was almost like Wes Anderson, wide and open. So I was really impressed with the aesthetic, and there are elements of Asteroid City, particularly the Adrian Brody parallel narrative, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, that got going right at the end, and it really started to connect like on that human level.
Right.
But ultimately, as a full package, just all the actors and none of the substance for me.
He then made a couple of short films that went onto Netflix, and now he returns to this proper full-length feature film called The Phoenician Scheme. The Phoenician Scheme, starring Benicio del Toro,
Mia Threppleton,
and Michael Cera as the main three. But as with any Wes Anderson film, a litany of other regular faces that include F. Murray Abraham, Willem Dafoe, Tom Hanks, Rupert Friend, Benedict Cumberbatch, Riz Ahmed, Bryan Cranston.
Oh my God, yeah.
Scarlett Johansson, and many more.
Willem Dafoe continues to just
Bill Murray, obviously.
Willem Dafoe continues to... was Bill Murray God?
Some sort of deity, yeah.
Willem Dafoe just seems to be like the ultimate, I'll give it a go, man, of Hollywood.
He never does. He is so magnetic to watch.
Yeah.
He's really funny when he's funny.
And he's in 4 films a year because of it. I'll see him in this, Nosferatu. I'll see him in... Beetlejuice. You'll see him again in... Poor Things. Because I'm watching films all year, I'll just see Willem Dafoe come out 4 or 5 times, and that's fine.
I'm absolutely fine with that.
His IMDb must be really dense.
Yes, actually, he must have a good filmography.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Phoenician Scheme, which Benicio del Toro plays a business tycoon called Jar Jar Corder, a sort of kind of like a Robert Maxwell figure who is the kind of at the chagrin of all countries he deals with. Lots of governments don't like him because he evades their tariffs. He doesn't have residency in any place. He has all these schemes. He's in with the mob. He's in with powerful princes, with powerful sheikhs, royal families. He is this kind of big tycoon.
Double-breasted suit wearing.
Cigar chomping and, mustachioed kind of guy. And he constantly, because of his power and influence, is at the risk of being assassinated. And the film opens with an assassination attempt on his life, which he survives, leading him to go and find his only daughter, who has become a nun, played by Mia Threppleton. And he sort of says, look, you're my only child. I want to make you the sole inheritor of all my estate, but in order to do that, you need to not be a nun. She sort of says, well, maybe. And then, and forgive me, because the plot does get rather convoluted. He proceeds to visit a lot of existing business arrangements that he has, which are part of the titular Phoenician scheme, and he is visiting these business arrangements to shore up their support in the face of a run on the stock market challenge from a committee of businessmen who seek to take away his influence. And we are given this sort of every 20 minutes a sort of textual thing on the thing, which would be like the gap in the stock market with percentages. And I tell you this now, every time that came up on screen, there was just befuddled, bemused silence.
I never really got it.
I never really understood what that meant as well. Just loads of percentages.
It only became clear that was the chapter marker for the film, and then I realised there were 5 of them, and I was like, oh, so good. We're only 3 or 5. Can tell what we thought.
Yes, a convoluted movie. James and I went to an advanced screening early this year where Patton Oswalt and Edgar Wright were just sat in the audience, which was quite cool.
Michael Cera and came out with Mia Threppleton and Benicio. Benicio del Toro, by the way, huge man, big man,
really big
man. I never thought he was a small man, but seeing him live, I realised he's got something to throw around.
I think he's like,
I think he'd fuck me up.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, not hard.
That's okay.
Anyway, look, that is the Phoenician Scheme, very sort of assessed and summed up. James,
I mean, that's it, right? Just you explaining the plot, I think, really highlights what I imagine is both of our problems with the film, in that it is very plotty, uninteresting, detail-ridden, but not in a way that really celebrates the plot, and I think it often takes away with it. I was tuning out of a lot of the film, and just talking about Wes Anderson's style, it is, of course, iconic and distinct, and it's only him that does this the way that he does, and it's a testament to his distinctive colour palette and framing that has led on to this career and this suite of films that are all just so distinctively his, and so many great versions of that style have proliferated and become, just his distinct thing. I almost feel like watching this now, because the plot was so lacking, it felt so much more to me that his style felt like an automatic assumption for this film that has constrained the plot. And that's such a shame, because I almost feel like the actors in this are all doing great work, I think. And I think actors clearly love working with Wes, because why would all 30 of them sign up every 2 years to do it if he wasn't a pleasure to work with? Problem is that I feel like the style now has started to lose my interest, which I think is a huge shame, because I don't dislike it. The style has started to feel contrived and uninteresting, and doesn't actually add to the story that he's trying to tell. I think his style has previously perfectly lended a whimsy and a heart to other of his films, which I would call some of my favourites. With this, it feels like a superfluous, I'm Wes Anderson, I'm going to do my Wes Anderson thing for this film. And I almost feel like, again, I don't know how to make a film. He should just sort of step out of his own style for a little bit, have a really hard think about, like, what type of story really needs this specific style, and whether or not it should be using it. So I did find it boring. I did find it, even it's 100 minutes, I did feel like it stretched on for way too long for me. I think Mia Threppleton is really good in this, but it's one of those performances where every single line is delivered at deadpan.
Yes. And
so while I enjoyed her as a screen presence, she only did, one or two things in the entire film. So not a wildly unpleasant watch. It just did nothing for me, which is a shame, because a film that stylistic should give me some lasting impression, and it just didn't. And I think a lot of people are feeling the same.
I thought it was profoundly dull. A friend of the show, Henry Calvert, to my left, fell asleep. I almost lent over you.
I nodded off.
Did you? Yeah.
In around like the 30-minute mark, I was struggling.
And I almost lent over to you to do the peep show thing of like, my God, this is tough. Look, I think it's important to say there's nothing mean-spirited about Wes Anderson's films, and there's nothing offensive or anything. So I'm not relishing or seeking to really tear this film apart. And a film like that is never going to be like deeply offensive or irritating in something the way that like Megalopolis did this or Kinds of Kindness was. It was a different kind of experience. But I think starting with what you said about Mia Threppleton is a good point, because you're right, her performance is not bad at all. No. But her deadpan delivery, which is a directorial choice, is an aesthetic choice, is lifeless. It kind of sucks the life out of this already very dense story.
A common character trait in Wes Anderson films, to have someone who's like that, who's like their emotion has left them, and that's what cuts through. And in the end, maybe they show a bit of emotion. It's kind of a cliche of his a bit.
And I was thinking about the plot, and I was really trying to work out if that plot would work in other hands. I was thinking maybe, but you'd have to tell it in such a different way. And I do think that the overall Wes Anderson approach, the whole aesthetic thing, does not work with the story, and it's so restrained, so lifeless and airless. And honestly, watching the film was like talking to a quaint elderly gentleman who is showing you his lovely stamp collection. And I'm like, this is very pretty, but for the love of God, can we go outside and have some fun? I really wanted to push the flats down in the studio and be like, Wes, can we run in the park or something? This is so stilted and stiff and stale. For goodness sake. And I was thinking about like the Royal Tenenbaums, which at least is set in New York City, or Darjeeling Limited, which is outside in India. Give me something. And it really, within 20, 30 minutes, the scenes that would take place, the dialogue are incomprehensible, unfollowable, uninteresting, really, really dull. And it made the style even more bothersome, because aesthetically gorgeous, beautiful, yes. And I'd almost prefer to have watched the film on mute, just so I can kind of flick through it like a picture book. But because in a way the style is so confrontational, because it is so direct and clean cut, and looking at you, that square format, everything's told directly to the camera. Every scene would kind of insist upon you, and you think, but you've got nothing to say. You've got this style in my face, but The jokes don't land. The story's incomprehensible, and it's just very dull.
You know what scene really reminds me of that? The title sequence, which is a top-down scene of a bathroom. Which, don't get me wrong, again, beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Wes Anderson always decorates to the edge of the frame, and in its 4x3, you can always find something to look at. But it's just a really long, few-minute-long scene with text.
Yeah.
And someone just giving him breakfast in a bath.
Yeah.
Again, I know it's a title shot, but like it didn't tell me anything about the character or where I was. It was just beautiful with an old school Moroccan tile in a standalone roll top bath. And I'm like, I'm now just waiting for this scene to end. It's a style and substance.
Yeah, it totally it made me feel quite cynical, really, because it reminded me of like the worst type of Wes Anderson fans who are just like, oh, he's, the whole thing is so beautiful and everything, who are only in it for the shallow aesthetic approach. And it kind of almost felt like a posing version of its own self.
Yeah. And I think going into it, I had my experience of Asteroid City in my mind, which I think sort of like lent me to thinking I might not enjoy this very much. But I was also hopeful that it could be like, oh, this is Wes Anderson I love, but it wasn't.
And honestly, I this is how cynical it made me feel in my boredom. But I was like, Wes, you might as well have just like worked in advertising or something, because you've got the aesthetic approach, you've got the filmmaking approach, but you've got absolutely no emotional heart here at all. I found that the boredom, to be honest, manifested itself physically in me. I was really restless and uncomfortable, and I felt just like I needed to get out. And it did start to remind me of the really boring experiences we have with like Wolves or Kinds of Kindness, which ultimately those are worse films and longer films. Yeah. But I came away. I mean, actually, you know what? I will just obviously underline this with the fact that I've always been a little bit one foot in, one foot out with Wes. I kind of take him one film at a time. Yeah. So putting on a kind of viewpoint where I'm trying to imagine if you are a regular Wes Anderson fan, I would say that you might enjoy it a bit more favourably than we have, but I still think that the story is lacking. Yeah. And although the aesthetic approach is there, I think you'll find it fairly mid. Yeah. Fairly mid.
Yeah, because they've always been bitty and detailed with little news articles here and backstory and the rum-dum-da-dum. That's always been there, and it can be like an information overload of a kooky arch world you don't quite understand. But that usually comes at a payoff when you learn the rules of these weird characters, weird world. With here, I got no payoff by having like tried to pay attention. I wasn't paying attention. I was literally losing concentration throughout the film, which made me more bored. It was like an escalating boredom.
Yes. The whole film's like a kind of airless, fondant fancy.
Didn't really laugh. Wasn't actually like hilarious either.
There were only 2 people laughing in our audience. One person on our row, which to their credit, maybe they were really enjoying it, and they're clearly Wes Anderson fans. So I thought at least someone's enjoying it. And the other person laughing was Edgar Wright. I could hear, and he laughed twice. Yeah. And it kind of trailed off. Yeah. Which, good for him. Allow him to laugh. Yeah. So disappointing and a shame. But I almost think we've talked about how filmmakers challenge themselves with every project, and they shouldn't make the same film over and over again. And I really want to grab Wes by his, wonderfully corduroy suit and like rip the arms off of it and go, Wes, for God's sake, man, go outside and make a proper movie.
Because a lot of directors have similar styles and do similar things, but there's almost a sense that as they go on, they evolve and iterate. Whether it's like they get more budget as they go bigger and they tell bigger stories, like Nolan tells larger stories than he did before. But also, like, it evolves and changes. It's not just like a rinse and repeat of something you did exactly the same way. And when a film isn't good enough, it reveals the weakness in your style, which is such a shame. And again, it's not the worst movie. I think we're largely just quite disappointed, which is why I think we have so much to say about it. Similar to what we said about Mission Impossible. It's like something that we think should be better and we know could probably be better.
And I think also our frustration comes with the fact that Wes Anderson has a big cultural cachet attached to him, and like it's great that he's an independent filmmaker. It's great that he makes his own films in his own way. But I think with the association that he's kind of like the poster boy for a lot of things. Like I said earlier, he's like he's big, he's a brand. Yeah. With that, you expect a certain level of quality and a certain element to deliver, and I just don't think he's delivered that for several times.
Thousands of Instagram accounts, that owe their entire success to the style of Wes Anderson that he popularised. So a bit of a shame, but as always, we'd like to hear your thoughts. If maybe you got something out of it that we didn't, or you agree with us, you can of course send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. We'll read them out on a future episode of the show. When's the Phoenician Scheme out? Is it out this week?
It's out. It's already out. By the time this episode drops, it's out.
It is out. Yes.
So the film's out now.
Lovely. Should we move on?
Let's move on. So, James, I can go to the screening yesterday of Fountain of Youth, new Apple TV Plus movie. As you said earlier, an adventure movie. Talk us through it. How'd it go?
I love an adventure movie, George.
Yeah, you do.
I absolutely do. I'm a sucker for the let's get the clues, let's travel the world, let's
scroll.
pull in a ragtag of different characters, as I said before.
A propeller plane, perhaps?
A propeller plane, yeah, that obviously is going to crash, and you pull the dusty lever, and the dust falls from the ceiling, and we're now trapped in the room, but god damn it, the character has some sort of knowledge that's going to get them out in the nick of time. It's globe-trotting, it's got a lot of heart, they're adventurous, they're family-friendly, they're smart, and I think like a lot of my love for cinema comes from these films deep down, whether it's Indiana Jones or National Treasure, but even in like the gaming sphere, like this is definitely borrowing a lot from Uncharted and obviously Tomb Raider and back and forth. So there's so much here for me I really like root for this film. And I saw this, I was like, oh, it's an adventure movie. I definitely want to go and check it out just to report back and see if I could say the adventure movie has returned. So this is The Fountain of Youth, which is an Apple TV Plus film, and I'll get back to that because it really feels like an Apple TV Plus film, but a certain type of Apple TV Plus film. It doesn't feel like F1, which we forget is an Apple TV Plus film, or Killers of the Flower Moon, which is an Apple TV Plus film. This feels like a certain type of Apple TV Plus film, and I think I now have like a band classification for different types of Apple TV Plus films. Like the Gorge. Like the Gorge, yes. So this is Fountain of Youth. It stars, let me just get the cast names up, forgive me. It stars John Krasinski as Luke, who is, we open in a chase. Oh, by the way, what this film has, and I'm not saying it's better or worse than Mission Impossible, but what this film has that Mission Impossible 8 really lacked, and we talked about this, is a fun zippiness, traveling the world, kinetic, run over here, meet over there, back over here. It really had that from the outgate. We open with a chase sequence in Bangkok. John Krasinski's Luke is running with a painting in a leather sort of roll up, and he's being pursued, and we realize he is stealing famous pieces of art from all around the world, and he goes to the National Portrait Gallery where Natalie Portman's Charlotte, his sister, works as like an art aficionado, and while he distracts her, he steals a very specific piece of art. Can't remember the art, but we all recognize it, and ends up looping her into a dramatic chase scene all the way through London, which makes no sense because the traffic would just be insane, and you're through Trafalgar Square, like, anyway. And she's asking him, what the hell are you doing? You're not chasing the Fountain of Youth again, and he is, and written on the back of all of the art pieces he's stolen is a secret cipher symbol when all linked together, and she has a specific knowledge that leads on to the next clue, and the next clue, and we've got the Fountain of Youth. Also starring is Isa Gonzalez, who is Esme, who works for a secret faction of people who are determined to not let anyone find the Fountain of Youth, for the power that lies within the fountain. If humanity ever got hold of it, would be, it's bad, it's devastating. Also, we have Owen, played by Donald Gleeson, who is a wealthy billionaire who is unfortunately suffering with liver cancer, who is determined to find the Fountain of Youth, the elixir of life, to help save his life.
Right, I can just see everything. If you stopped now and tried to get me to finish the story, I bet I could.
Yes, and we've got John Krasinski has a great satchel, of course, because he's on an adventure. And I was really watching the satchel, thinking, were I to go on an adventure, I would choose a bloody good satchel, because you just need a good satchel. We've also got.
Would you go leather or cotton canvas?
Oh God, leather. I go leather. Nice brown leather. We've also got Stanley Tucci in it for one scene, shot at the Vatican, very clearly filming Conclave. It was so funny. And we've got Arian Moayed, who was in Succession. She's still in Succession, who's the inspector of Interpol, and I'll get back to him. That's the broadcast, and so that's basically the plot.
And directed by Guy Ritchie, right?
Oh yeah, sorry, and yeah, it's directed by Guy Ritchie, and we've talked about this phenomenon before. He has been like this sort of go-to journeyman director who obviously has developed in his prolific career with his gangster movie style, quick whip pan, dry British humor, but he also now is this like Hollywood director for hire, and you'll see him directing a bunch of sort of like miscellaneous large studio films. You and I have theories that maybe he's like a reliable director who works well with talent, who can deliver a film under budget in time, and that's probably like why he does quite well. So yeah, like Guy Ritchie directing it, I've no particular like style inflection from this film that makes you feel like you're watching a Guy Ritchie film, but there's nothing to take away from his execution of this film. I think the film broadly is competently executed. This is immediately, as soon as I watched it, an Apple TV Plus film
Right.
in the same sense that it is wildly premium and expensive and comfortable. And the clothes, George,
Of course.
were immaculate to the point where they were distracting. Inspector of the Interpol thing wears outfits that are insane.
Yeah.
He wears easily a $3,000 suit to his job where he has to use a gun and a gorgeous, must be £6,000 camel overcoat.
Brilliant.
And I'm just thinking, how much are you getting paid?
Yeah.
That's not a practical outfit. I do hope, Ariane, that you got to keep that suit. John Krasinski, the entire time, not just the satchel, gorgeous suede jackets. Natalie Portman in wildly impractical clothes whilst tomb raiding, like a poncho that like drapes over the arm. Donald Gleeson, gorgeous double-breasted suits, distracting nice outfit. Even the henchman, like one of the stiffs for Isa Gonzalez, was wearing this easily £4,000-5,000 suede Harrington jacket.
Brilliant.
And I got distracted thinking
Suede Harrington, wow.
Suede Harrington, that is not cheap to have a suede Harrington. My point is, George, and I think you and I, we sniff out a good coat when we see one.
Oh, yes.
We will notice that like that's an expensive piece of outfit, is that people were overly manicured and overly dressed.
Yeah.
And Natalie Portman is, she's brilliant, she's fine in this, but she always looked like she'd just come out of 2 hours of sitting in a makeup chair and she'd be ready to go on late night at any moment's notice. And John Krasinski obviously looks fantastic. He's like the English teacher we all have a crush on, who's like funny and quippy. And there's nothing about the film that is particularly unpleasant to watch, but it's very corporate approved, very sanded down, very sanitized. It has no edge. I think the film is very second screen friendly, or what I would like to call dip in and out friendly, where if it was on at home in like an Apple TV Plus home environment, I think a family member could come in and out and drop in and not really lose any plot details.
Put it on Christmas Day kind of thing.
Put it on at Christmas Day. There's nothing about the plot that you're gonna, if you miss this, you won't get it. There are some twists that you see from a mile away.
Of course.
There's one point where like you suspect some character, likely because there isn't an antagonist yet, will probably double cross. It's probably this character. And just in case you weren't sure, our main characters sit down and go, how well do you know that guy? I do hope he doesn't double cross us later. Nah, why would he? To only then double cross you later in the film. So Stanley Tucci is in it for one scene, and oh my God, George, the clothing he was wearing, but like ridiculously well dressed. Like people in life aren't this well dressed, especially for an adventure. He's wearing a gorgeous suede jacket with a lovely like pashmina, perfectly folded, with an overcoat over it, and he looked amazing. I do want I understand how your character can look very well, but why do you look so good? It was distracting.
Yeah, I know, totally know what you mean.
And so, and like Natalie Portman's hair would be up if you were raiding a tomb. She's got gorgeous, long, blown, dry hair. And this is true for anyone, not just having a go at her.
If you want to go tomb raiding, you need to tie your hair
It's far too overly manicured. Everyone looks overpaid. And I've seen this phenomenon in the Apple TV brand where like there's no dirt under the fingernails of this film. People are inherently like running around, jumping, mucking a bit. It needed to just have something a little bit more edgy, and I wonder if this US tech approved drama doesn't quite know how to get that sort of like guerrilla boots on the ground filmmaking done. I'm not saying it's true for everything I've seen, and obviously like Netflix does such a broader variety of content where that's not always true. But there is this overly sharpened, beautifully lit veil that I think has become the Apple TV look. That with this, I feel it's not an unpleasant experience. I didn't have a bad time. Its staleness makes for a slightly boring, stale watch, but it's not unpleasant. The actors are all having fun in it. The action's fairly tame. I think it could have done with a better heist or like something more. We need to get the thing to move the thing in the beginning. But that's it. Maybe for something to watch at home with some parents. Yeah, plain safe.
I meant like on a plane.
No,
Oh, but I see you're double entendre. So you plane.
It's like I think plain fine. Like you might just end up not really concentrating. It is.
This is crucial. So I'm going to say, I'm hoping from everything you've just told me, I'm hoping it doesn't massively exceed 2 hours. It needs to be relatively 2 hours.
2 hours, 5 minutes.
There you go.
So it's just on the edge.
On the edge there.
There's also a kid written into this who's Natalie Portman's child who she's facing a custody issue with because John Krasinski keeps leading her into all of these crime things, who's a British child who doesn't sound like any British child I've ever met. The closest thing he reminds me of is what the Harry Potter kids sound like in the first Harry Potter movie.
Oh no,
that must be magic. I'm like, that's not a child. What is this posh child who's so well spoken?
Yeah.
I get he could be a posh child, but like no child speaks like that.
Yeah.
It was strange. So that was also just very distracting. There's a distinct choice, obviously, to have John Krasinski and Natalie Portman. They're not love interests in an adventure movie where typically that might be. They're brother and sister, which I think is a very distinct choice to not have them or any of those two characters.
Why not have them as love interests? Would that make it more interesting?
I think it would have done because I found their dynamic a bit naggy, as you would with a sibling on an adventure where like the world is at stake. So I think there is easily a version of this film where there was a love interest there that wasn't explored. I wonder if like nobody wanted to do it and the cast involved changed that. It's just me speculating. But that dynamic I think was less interesting than if you had done a more conventional romance in parallel to the adventure.
Is there from what you've seen in the film, is there any evidence that they shot it as him as the love interest and in post or in a reshoot they changed it to being brother and sister?
No.
Okay, got it.
No, I don't think so.
Got
I think
it.
maybe
Just
like
checking.
it was an option and it sort of got written out. So that's where I'm at with Fountain of Youth.
I know exactly what you mean about the clothing, by the way. I had that with The Bear, and was a big thing that really distracted me about Ayo Edebiri's character.
Yes,
which
I
is
remember.
like she's this struggling wannabe chef, and she's like living with her dad in like a pokey apartment, but she's wearing like Tom Brown. She's wearing like
Was it also in Bottoms when she was wearing a jumper?
Well, your Bottoms
The
is
high school.
Yes, but I didn't. I mean, the costumes and the clothing is quite cool in Bottoms, but that's
Yeah.
because it's like that's more absurd and aestheticized. So I don't
Yes,
necessarily mind.
yeah.
But with The Bear, which is trying to be like gritty and real, I'm looking at her clothes and I'm just like, that's a $700 cardigan.
Oh my God, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
You're meant to be struggling to pay rent.
And not only were the clothes nice, they looked like they had never been worn.
Yes,
They had just
yeah,
come off
yeah,
the
box
rack.
fresh, yeah.
And like, yes, John Krasinski, you're wearing an adventurer's outfit, but you look like you could walk a runway right now and people could regard your outfit as
So-
a piece of high fashion.
Also, what I found interesting, having not watched the film, but from the billing, is that John Krasinski's giving top billing. I would have always thought Natalie Portman is a bigger star. Is there evidence from your viewing of it that the film can't decide who the lead character is?
It feels pretty even to me, actually. Like, I don't feel like either of them were taking it away from the other. I'd say, like, John Krasinski is the one that drives the adventure forward, and Natalie Portman's more like the safe one who's like, we shouldn't be doing this, you're going to get us in trouble. But that doesn't, I wouldn't say that one of them necessarily... I think it feels like John Krasinski's film. John Krasinski, I really see him like being put into this like action man character, or action man, sort of like leading man action adventure film. Like, we know he was primed to play Captain America, but he lost it out to Chris Evans. Like, I totally have seen him in that role. He would have made a great, and he's on Jack Ryan, would have made a great Nathan Drake.
I think also as an actions character, I think this kind of character sounds better for John Krasinski because he needs action characters that have a bit of charm and charisma.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Jack Ryan, but it obviously looks very straight and very serious.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm thinking, we all know he's big tuna. Like, leave him some room.
And I think it's like, it's not me just now watching films with a specific lens. I really do think this look makes films feel, everything about it is very well done. It feels like a very well-funded Super Bowl commercial instead of cinema. And I am really starting to notice it now. And I really want to see the leaked costume budget. I would love to see it.
Why? It's not cinema. It's content.
It's content, yeah. It's very cynical, but I kind of... Oh, but by the way, the whole third act set in the pyramids of Giza, all the mysterious stuff around that. Big fan of that. Indulge in all of the... It's not what it seems. It was built by these people. Johanna James, I know you're listening. You'll like the third act of Fountain of Youth. So... Go and see it for the outfits, get some inspiration.
Is it getting a cinema release, or is it just going straight to Apple TV+?
Oh, do you know what? That's a good question. I don't know. We should find out. Fountain of Youth.
I'd be surprised if it is, considering we're like, it's Mission Impossible time. And
It feels like a... it does just feel like a film that is dressed up as a cinematic release, but is available straight away on Apple TV+. It was released... Oh, yeah. Released May 23rd, which is the day we're recording today on Apple TV+. But I don't know if it's actually going out in cinemas.
Great. So that was Fountain of Youth. Let's move on.
So, George, let's talk about The Ballad of Wallis Island, a
Yes.
cast we got to meet and interview at Sundance in January. But it was one of those things where, like, none of these films had marketing or posters or promotion yet.
Yes.
They were just essentially talent on a sheet for us to speak to. But they were talking about The Ballad of Wallis Island, which is directed by James Griffiths, and it's written by Tom Basden and Tim Key, who also star in this alongside Carey Mulligan. Herb, who's one half, played by Tom Basden, who's one half of a folk duo called MacGyver Mortimer, has arrived on a remote but very picturesque, blustering, cold, wet, damp British island off the coast of the UK.
It's kind of like it's a composite mixture of like, it's a fictional island. It's
Fictional
like, it's not as harsh as the Orkneys, not as picturesque as the Scilly Isles. Maybe it's a bit like the Channel Islands, but it's just small
on
island.
that Atlantic side.
Maybe the
I
Isle of
reckon.
Man side of thing.
Oh yeah, it could be around there.
Yeah.
Arrives on Wallis Island and is greeted by superfan Charles, who welcomes him to the island, and he has arranged a special performance for less than 100 people for him to come to Wallis Island and play, and he is paying him £500,000 in cash. And as soon as he gets arrived on the island, you know, he's completely soaked. His phone is waterlogged. He can't get in touch with anyone. Charles is very awkward and strange, but also like in this light-hearted, like clearly giddy with excitement to have him there. And it's clear that he's not going to be able to leave when he wants. And there's sort of this like chalk and cheese comedic duo between them. But also arriving to the island is Carey Mulligan's character, Nell, and her American husband, Michael. And therein lies this complex
To the surprise.
to the surprise of Tom Basden's character, and all of them are now stuck on this island, being confronted with the fact that they were making music, then they broke up. Tom Basden's character is like this rock and roll star out of time. He's sort of a bit too cool for school with his black Bob Dylan-esque sunglasses and skinny jeans, guitar over the back. So he's got a lot of demons to confront.
And I said the way they're kind of dressed is kind of he's wearing the hangover of like early 2010s indie folk pop.
Yes, yeah, like a rock star in his time, he never really came out of it. And what becomes clear is as they sort of meet this character Charles, is that he's someone who's been alone for a very long time. He lives alone on this island without really contacting many other people in this very big house. And they start to sort of pick each other's brains and get to know each other. And it's sort of a light-hearted, fun comedy. You know, it's beautifully shot, very idyllic, very neutral tones, lots of cozy cardigans and talking around campfires. The house they shoot in is very gorgeous. If you like the comedy style of Tim Key that you've seen in what's the face? Alan Partridge. It's definitely up your street for that kind of comedy tone. But George, how did you get on with the Ballad of Wallis Island?
Yeah, if you've seen the trailer for Ballad of Wallis Island, or you've conjured up an image in your head from James's description, it is exactly the film you think it is. And that's not necessarily a problem. It is a perfectly nice, really well-intentioned, not ultimately that surprising or novel or different film, but one that's very warm, satisfying, got great heart.
Yeah, I was going to say the heart.
Not very long. I think it's maybe just over 90 minutes. It's very small. I think the thing that kind of elevates it is Tim Key is brilliant. Obviously, he co-wrote it, as we know, but like Tim Key has a very distinctive comedic style. He's been brilliant in things we said, as you said, like Alan Partridge. Yeah. But in this, he's really great at kind of focusing that on emotional warmth. Yeah. And there are so many different hands, his character could be really annoying or just not work, but he's actually so charming and lovely. And the only other person we meet on this island is Sean Clifford's like shopkeeper.
Yes, yeah.
And like their sort of interactions are sort of quite fun. And I think Tom Basden is great at being sort of world-weary and worn down and carrying the shadow of this sort of sub Mumford & Sons, ironic because of Carey Mulligan, slow club kind of indie duo. And Carey Mulligan, always brilliant, always fantastic.
We're big fans.
Great. And it's kind of lovely, it's sweet, it's got good heart, goes down nicely with a cup of tea on a Sunday afternoon kind of movie. And, you know, of all the films in a way that we've talked about today, I feel like it's probably the film that delivers the most on its promise, which is yes, it is exactly what you think it is, but that's absolutely fine. Yeah. It's very sweet and well-intentioned.
I quite like seeing Tim Key, you talk about like his comedic energy sort of thriving a bit more. He's not just like an accompaniment to Alan Partridge to act opposite of. He really feels like he's his own comedic presence that bounces off others. I think that's obviously key because he's the one that's written it. And it is funny. Like there are a handful of scenes that I did find funny. The tennis scene's very funny. The scene when like Tom Basden's changing and he says to Tim Key, "Can you get the door?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." So he just closes the door with both of them in it. He's like, "No, to get out." And it's just loads of dumb jokes like that that I think if you have a certain sense of humour, you'll really enjoy. So I'd quite recommend it. Am I going to say rush out and go see it, essential viewing? Probably not. But if you catch it and it's something you feel like you might be into. It's definitely like a little bit of a tearjerker. It's got lots of heart. I'd give it a go.
Yeah, it's not that surprising. You kind of come out of it and go, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
So there you go. That was the Ballad of Wallis Island, which is the third film to talk about today.
And I will just say nice music all the way throughout.
Yeah,
nice to be
written for the film.
For the show, but by Marcus Mumford, or am I making that up?
I think you're making that up.
I'm making that up.
I think
sounds like it could have been Mumford and Sons, basically.
Yes,
and the connection through Carrie Mulligan would therefore suggest.
It's perfectly nice. Let us know what you think about Ballad of Wallis Island if you go and see it. Should we read some emails?
Let's do it. George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you want to send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews, you can always send them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us at the VIP tier on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out on the show. Charlotte writes into
hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
She writes in with Bond question. Before we do, George, do you notice friend of the show and friend in real life, Benedict Townsend, sent reshared a photo of
good.
Mr. Aaron Taylor Johnson in a gorgeous suede jacket.
Yeah.
Easily. Again, that's an expensive thing
Straight
to
off the set
own.
of Fountain of Youth.
Straight off the set of Fountain of Youth. Doing a branded collaboration with Omega, who have famously been a watch collaborated branded thing for many, 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 many Bond films.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like what?
Yes.
He knows he's in contention to Bond, or was with the previous thing. It's that
or it's past. He's no longer Bond. The opportunity's gone. Maybe there was some initial talks with Omega, and Omega are like, "Well, we can't wait for the next Bond film." You know what? Everyone knows him. He's still a great star. We'll still get conversation and buzz out of this. Yeah. We'll do a deal anyway. Why not? And actually, it might be one of those things that if he's not Bond, it's probably easier for him to publish something with him with Omega, because if he is Bond, there's probably loads of contractual things like, no, you can only do the image
with Bond.
Yeah.
Is it the determining factor will be, because I think it's an Omega
It'll be
Seamaster.
the determining factor is whether he is Bond or not.
Oh yeah, there's that. But no, I think, is it always the Omega Seamaster, which is the Bond watch? Yeah,
I'm sure it is.
It's always a blue-faced Omega Seamaster that Bond wears in some capacity. I think for Spectre he had like a tan one. So you know what? If it's Seamaster,
watches are things like cars to me. Things that I can observe as things of aesthetic interest.
Yes.
But I have no sort of deeper interest because they're, on a kind of financial level.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I need a car to be functional, really, and if it has nice things, great. Or I need a watch to be functional. I'm not interested in the sort of commodification or buying into the sort of art dealing world of having
collecting watches.
I haven't got a Patek Philippe in my pocket.
Like you'll encounter people in life as a guy. Someone will be like, "Oh yeah, I collect Rolexes," and I'm always like, "I'm so far removed from."
You are several tax bands above me.
Totally, and I think we feel fairly similar. I have an appreciation for a nice car as I do a nice item of clothing.
Yeah.
But I think a nice car is one of the last things I'll spend money on.
Yes.
And I'm aware I live in a city, so like the enjoyment is slightly different there. But if I have a nice car, that means I'm doing really well, because I'll have spent money on literally everything else.
Which is why people buy nice cars first, because they'll be like, then it seems like
I'm doing really well.
But I think
I'll be in like a VW Polo.
Happily.
I'd much rather have a much nicer house, nicer holiday at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Than have a nice car. But that's just me personally.
Also, podcasting doesn't really bring in the bucks that
Not
much.
yet.
So,
not yet. Not until we go exclusive with someone. Can you imagine in 3 weeks, Instagram fucking Omega.
Omega.
Our all is like, shit, they really smashed it.
Okay, sorry, Charlotte's Bond question.
Grills. It's like the Joker's cart's purple.
Yeah.
Charlotte writes in with Bond question. It says, "Hello, James and George and James. I've been listening back through old episodes as I'm a relatively new listener and loving the podcast. Charlotte, welcome. Particularly loved the best films of the decades, as I was also born in 94.
What up?
I felt as though we'd all been on similarly movie journeys. Keep up the great work. That's great to know. I also enjoyed those episodes, and you guys really enjoyed those episodes based on the viewing figures.
So from last year, if you hadn't checked this out, we did best movies of the 2010s, best movies of the 2000s, best movies of the 90s.
And that's kept up with like the movies that had broadly released in the times that we were alive. And I think we would like to at some point to go 80s, 70s, and 60s. I think would be tougher, but we could do it. Charlotte goes on to say, "I've always considered myself a pretty well-rounded film watcher, but the Bond franchise just seems to have passed me by. Maybe there was just no love for Bond in my house growing up. My question for you is, if I were to dive in now, where would you recommend starting? Which would you prioritize / look forward to? Thanks, Charlotte." I think if you've never watched one, I would just go for Casino Royale right now. Because it's the modern update. I think Casino Royale is a fantastic film. Oh, there's a wasp.
No, No, it's just a fly.
It's just a fly. Sorry.
I do agree that. Sorry, Casino Royale.
Casino Royale is a really good, nearly perfect Bond film. I think it's really good.
I think I've only. I know I've said this loads of times. I've only seen that once, and I saw it in the cinema.
Oh, it's
so we're talking
brilliant.
like 20 years ago, and
You'd have so much fun
there's
rewatching
so
it.
many people talking about it on Film Bites. People talk about it. Obviously, Benedict talks about it.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Paul Feig was like, I love Casino. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go back and rewatch it.
And nicely, you could, like, even though Skyfall's a brilliant movie, I think almost like if you've not done any Bond, Skyfall's more of like an homage to who Bond is as a character, where a lot of those big moments might be missing for you. I think go Casino Royale, and if you're having great fun, complete the Daniel Craig saga. If you want to go vintage, I think Goldfinger, is a really good one to sort of capture what Bond was.
Well, if Charlotte's a 90s baby, she could also go for GoldenEye. Because it's like,
and GoldenEye also, yeah.
Well, any of the
Pierce Brosnan's really good. In terms of like Roger Moore, like For Your Eyes Only, I quite like. But then you're just, I feel like they all just become like sort of, I'm really reducing what Bond is. I feel like once you start looking in, it's like, well, you could watch this one, and then you could watch this one. Go Connery, and then
do you know what would be helpful,
Craig.
James? Sorry, say that again.
So like go look at Craig, and if you like want to get a sense of old Bond, go to Connery.
This next email is from John, who writes in saying space movie question. Hello J&G, G&J.
Thank you.
I like the fact that he's also put G&J in brackets, but like a mathematical equation.
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
To the power of
to get
things.
G, you have to put it over.
Yeah,
I'm 3 minutes from the end of your Thunderbolts episode, which is a few weeks ago now.
Thank you.
And I have to stop everything and email in because I've just had the most egregious error anyone's ever made on a podcast. Okay?
yeah.
At the very end of the space movie game, you claim that Michael Jordan goes to space to play basketball with the Looney Tunes in Space Jam. However, elder millennials like myself, who have every frame seared into our brains from the repeated VHS viewings as children, can tell you that Michael Jordan gets pulled into a golf hole and transported to the center of the earth, aka Looney Tunes lad. Though the
You went
movie,
a bit Steve Coogan.
I did there, yeah. Well, the
To the
movie is
centre of the
called
earth.
Space Jam. This is a misnomer, as there's never a scene where Jordan is in space. As this is such a clear assault on the millennial cinematic canon, I can only assume this must have been an engagement bait for pedants like myself who cannot let it stand. If this is the case, well done, you got me. All is forgiven. Can I just say on Space Jam, you are correct. All right, forgive me. It's called Space Jam.
Yeah.
I was just trying to make a game.
Yeah.
I had 20 minutes on the train to like come up with something. One of my favorite sounds, and maybe like jokes that stands out from Space Jam, is when they go, remember Wayne Knight goes looking
Yes.
for...
I don't remember the details of Space Jam.
Okay,
well.
so
I've
yeah,
seen
Michael
it.
Jordan gets pulled through the golf hole. Anyway, and then like a few scenes later, Wayne Knight goes like looking for Michael Jordan because he's gone sucking through the golf, and he's like dug a massive hole where the golf hole is, like trying to find him, and there's this huge amount of earth, and then he's on this like luxury golf course, and this golf guy comes over to him. He's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And he goes, I'm fixing a divot." He goes, "Oh, he's fixing a divot!" And it's the way he says it. I just always say like, "He's fixing a divot."
Other people, if we're going to get pedantic, other people were saying when we talked about Jessica Chastain, and I was like, "Oh, Interstellar," and you were like, "Oh no, she doesn't go into space," and the answer was The Martian. Somebody commented on the video being like, Jessica Chastain's character technically goes into space later in Interstellar when they meet on the float. You know, when they're on the space. You know, when spoilers for Interstellar. You know, at the end of Interstellar, when Cooper meets Murph as an old lady, that's in a space station traveling to
but
their
that's
new
not just
home.
played by Jessica
Yeah,
Chastain.
I know, but we're getting very pedantic.
I was
but
just,
it's technically
all of Jessica Chastain's screen time,
His boots on the ground.
in Interstellar, is on planet Earth. Okay. Anyway, now for a question. John says, "What 3 movies would you consider to be in a spiritual trilogy with one another that they weren't made with that intention? For
spiritual
example,
trilogy.
continuing the space theme, I would place The Right Stuff, First Man, and Apollo 13 into the early NASA trilogy. Interested to hear your thoughts." John from Pasadena. Well,
we do this with double bills quite a lot.
yeah, double bills. We actually had an episode about good double bills
did.
early on in
did,
the
very early.
seasons of
Yeah,
Pulp
yeah,
Kitchen. I would say that to following the space thing,
Yeah.
I remember in my head I have an unofficial trilogy of Gravity, Interstellar, and The Martian, not just because they're space films, but because they all came out in the autumn of 2013, 14, and 15, respectively. So by 2015, I was used to every autumn there being like a big space movie.
Yeah,
So I kind of
talks
followed those
about like
three.
No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, feeling like similar
but a
product.
trilogy.
You could do like a sort of filmmakers trilogy with like Babylon, The Fabelmans.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's kind of like spiritual Hollywood, LA.
Or how about, like again, double bills in my head, some like Whiplash and Black Swan, or well, let us know what you think an unofficial trilogy could be to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
This next one is from Miranda, who writes in Pulp Kitchen podcast question. Dear George and James, I hope this email finds you well. I've been listening/watching your podcast for several years now.
Yes.
Hope you both discuss film. How you both discuss film is a wonderful listen.
I hope you guys can get round to talking about some films.
Not like
Don't
city
mind.
living and sentiments of people for the country. Apologies for the rant. How you both discuss film is a wonderful listen.
Thank you, Miranda.
Another question, one more positive. What do you think will be the next big film genre? I think comic book films will slowly die out like the Western. What will be the next Marvel or Star Wars? I think dark fantasy may come back. I think Willow, Labyrinth, etc. But I think/hope using practical effects. I think we all need a little whimsy in our lives, and could offer escapism. Even with superheroes, aliens, etc., it still feels too real now. Whereas leaning into a historical, magical fantasy has a nostalgia, childlike, but still timeless quality. Artists can still use it as a tool for metaphor, but not feel too close to home. I think with the rise of right-wing movements, more conservative viewers and studios can have their wasp fantasy in it too. With House of the Dragon being quite popular, I think
in order to make it survive, we must include the tastes of the conservatives.
the shifting right-wing movement. With House of the Dragon being quite popular, I think the key would be not a remake or spin-off of another property. I could see retelling of folklore being popular if they're lesser known. All the best, Miranda from West Sussex. Thank you for your question, Miranda. What do we think is the next big thing? There's no doubt, we talked about this on Double Take. The MCU, I think, as it stands, will come to a close. I have no doubt it will be rebooted and remade for another generation.
On last week's Double Take, we talked about how Avengers Doomsday has been delayed by 6 months.
So go and check out our Patreon. It's all sorts of fun trailers and reactions and news analysis.
But back to Miranda's question. Thank you.
What do you think is the next thing? What's popular right now? Sci-fi is definitely very popular.
This is the thing. I think we had an email about this maybe a year ago, and the answer I gave then is kind of what I think now, which is I do think science fiction, in all of its iterations, is probably the next big thing. So I think on the one hand...
It's been big for a while
Well, no, but I mean, like, I'm not in the same way like the superheroes have been big. Yeah, you get science fiction films, but I'm talking like, on the one hand, big sci-fi movies like Dune, which are, epic and telling a story, but more like political and have a bit more of like a kind of House of the Dragon-esque, tale to tell. But I also think science fiction in the way that we know it with, you could say Black Mirror at one end, but I mean just as a space to talk about tech, to talk about ideas, to talk about concepts.
Humanity.
Yeah, and to talk about the way that power is abused and all that kind of thing. Like, I can see that. I can see audiences being ready. Look at Avatar. That's a science fiction fantasy, but science fiction nonetheless. Like, I think people are ready for big scale, an allegorization of the world, and visualizing what the future could be. I think,
I see. I think sci-fi is always going to be a big one.
Because science fiction keeps looking better and better because the technology to make films gets better and better.
In space. I think in space. I think the Toys to Life thing is going to be big post Barbie. Like, take an existing IP, satirize it, parody it, bring it onto the big screen. It's been attempted for a while, but the video game movie is finding success. The Mario Brothers success, the Minecraft success. Uncharted technically was a financial success. I think now they will scrape and the Elden Ring thing we talked about on Double Take, that's coming very soon.
Meanwhile, also on TV, Last of Us and Fallout have been really successful.
Yes,
what a great way of getting Gen Z and Gen Alpha really interested through video games.
Yes, exactly right. And how they do. There is an obvious correlation for people go home and watch the show, or they go to the cinema and watch the film, and they want to go and play the game. It improves the sales of everything.
Yes.
I think that is definitely... People are going to start scraping up all of these IPs, even if, like Minecraft, there isn't necessarily a distinct story to tell.
No.
And kind of with Elden Ring, I think they're going to have to pick and choose what they want to do with that. They're just going to go, what can we do? What's popular? What can reinforce its own thing? The Sony PlayStation thing is obvious. Sony makes films. They make games.
Yeah.
The Sony Pictures thing all kind of works in one house. I see that doing quite well.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's what I think as well. It's also... cynically, it's just like, how do we get to our younger consumers?
Yeah,
let's target that.
Speaking about GTA, which we keep talking about on Double Take, no one's ever tried to do it because it's kind of been poo-pooed for a really long time as like the poster child for violent video games. But that's not so much of an issue in cinema, and I think that somebody might go, what is GTA at its core? It's a crime story. It's a satire of America, satire of pop culture. Could they do something like a TV show that is to the spirit of Grand Theft Auto? Because GTA, like if you think about Vice City, San Andreas, they've all been like the American dream done in different ways. Vice City's very much Scarface.
Yeah.
San Andreas is like an LA crime story.
Yeah.
GTA 4's like, you know, take your pick over the inspirations. It's again, it's like a immigrant comes to America. 5 is like a Goodfellas. Yeah. There's so many, like, they reference cinema so much. I wouldn't be surprised, given the popularity, there's a GTA movie or show coming.
But you know what? It feels slightly reductive with something like GTA, which is like, built so much on the shoulders of movies. And I feel like, I can't describe it any other way than it feels like you've been playing outside and someone's gone, this is great, let's go inside and play.
Do a puzzle.
And you're like, it's still you're still playing.
Yeah.
But you're going, it's more restrictive.
You're not quite,
I don't want to go inside and play.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miranda, for that.
But yeah,
email.
I think gaming adaptation, not going anywhere.
This next email is from Arlo, who writes in about greatest sports films. Hello, George and James. No bias here, purely alphabetical. Greetings once again from New Zealand. Thank you so much for reading out my email the other week. It was very unexpected and honestly, it felt like being on television. And now Arlo from New Zealand.
Arlo at home there. How are you? Great to see you, Arlo. I know why we're doing American, but television.
Cheesy, yeah. The other day,
the Aussie takeover from last week,
where
like almost all our emails were from Australia. I rechecked, like the Australian contingent of our listenership is like 9%, massively overrepresented in the emails.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I have no problem with it. I was like, oh shit, loads of Australians listening, but it's like 10%.
Well, a vocal minority.
A vocal minority.
The other day, I was finally able to watch Challengers. I've been meaning to get to it for quite some time, and I have to say it was well worth the wait. Thoroughly enjoyed the dynamics between the three main characters, the way in which the tennis match was framed, like one long fight scene, and the score, composed magnificently by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, was truly memorable.
It's usually Trent
Reznor and Atticus Ross. That's what threw me off. I was like, what's he done there?
Do you think they have arguments about it, like James and George and James?
It got me thinking with Challengers. Right now, Trent Reznor's agent is getting a phone call.
It matters to me, damn it.
It got me thinking, with Challengers coming out last year, Brad Pitt's Formula 1 coming out, and A24 coming out soon, and A24's The Smashing Machine set to release later this year, are sports films making a comeback? Oh, right, What are the Iron Claw as well, I suppose?
Yeah.
What are some of your guys' favourite sports movies? Oh. And if you could make one yourselves, what sport would you base the film around? My personal favourite is Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull. I believe it to be Marty's finest work and an all-round masterpiece. Thank you once again from the other side of the globe for the marvellous content and for being my favourite podcast ever.
There it is.
Cheers, Arlo. P.S. My hot take is that the Rocky films are nothing more than pulpy cheese. Hi, I'm pulpy cheese. And barely scratch the surface when it comes to making compelling sports films. Well, the thing is, with all sports movies, is that the best sports movies, it's not really about the sport. It's about what's in here.
See, I really like Challengers, but I'd say it's not about sport.
It's not sport movie.
I think Creed 1's really good. I remember picking up Creed, watching it at home, and just getting properly into it and feeling like I was a part of this legacy of film. And I think as like a legacy sequel/reboot, it's one of the best examples. I think 2 and 3 are like fine and entertaining, but I think Creed 1 is really good.
I think Rush is all right, actually.
Rush,
Rush is not
with
bad.
Daniel Bruhl. It's the first time I really saw like Daniel Bruhl doing good work outside of Inglourious Basterds. I thought he was great in it.
Let me think.
Free Solo, which is a documentary, is amazing.
Yes.
You should watch that.
It's not sport.
It's a sport.
It's not a sport.
It's a documentary, which makes it different. It's not like
I wouldn't say it's a sport though. It's an activity. You can't a sport.
Climbing is a sport.
I wouldn't classify that as a sport. You can't.
Climbing is a sport.
Well, how is it a sport? Sport is games and rules. You know.
Yeah, but like free soloing is different, but like climbing is a sport.
What climbing wall?
It's a sport.
Is it the Olympics?
Yeah,
you can do climbing good thing.
Yes, they do.
But free solo is not. I wouldn't say that's a sport movie. I'd say
it's a sports documentary. Oh no, climbing's a sport. Climbing's really big.
I know.
I think it's because it's not
full respect to climbers. I'm not saying. I'm not trying to take what it is away from it. I'm just like, do you define that as a sport?
Yeah, it's like an obstacle and overcoming. Is Jerry Maguire a sports movie? Oh, Cool Runnings. Cool Runnings is one of my favourite sports. Have you seen Cool Runnings? Here we go, climbing. Go on.
You know why? This is pedantic. You're absolutely right. I would define it as an extreme sport.
Oh, fine. Yeah.
But
Free soloing is 100% an extreme sport. Climbing as a sport is not. Climbing is a sport.
Climbing is considered.
I want to give a shout out to Cool Runnings. That's a brilliant
never
film.
seen
It's
it.
really good fun and I think really funny. And it has a lot of heart based on a true story. I'd also give a shout out to Coach Carter, which I almost think is
so
the
you said the other day.
quintessential Samuel L. Jackson, no-nonsense, tough guy film. He goes into work at a tough school and he has to turn this group of boys around. He teaches them not just about basketball, George. It's about how to be men.
Dodgeball.
Brilliant.
Bend It Like
hilarious.
Beckham.
I think we're getting a sequel to. Oh, Ben Beckham's brilliant. I think we're getting a sequel to Dodgeball.
I thought that was the one like comedy sequel that had held out. They hadn't.
I have a feeling it's coming, but I think who knows?
Like The
if I
Wrestler
actually saw
with
it.
Nicky Rourke.
I need to rewatch Moneyball. I've seen it once, and a lot of people really go on about it. I think it's a
sucks.
bit dry. Go on.
I this was me like a year ago, and I was like, I need to rewatch Moneyball. It's been on my Netflix list for ages. I remember enjoying it. Put it on, fell asleep through the entire thing. Woke up at the end, and my dad went, "That was great, wasn't it? So glad we watched that." And I was like, "Shit." The Fighters, not bad.
Foxcatcher.
Oh yeah, it's again. That's like it is about sport, but like it's also about so much more.
Some of them are around sport.
Just sort of really
Bend It Like Beckham's
Naiad
really
was
good.
quite good. I quite liked Young Women in the Sea, swimming.
Do you remember Air?
Senna.
Do you remember
as a
Air, that
documentary.
film?
Yeah,
The
I
Nike
wouldn't call that sports
No,
movie.
I agree. It's like around.
You know what I realised
with Michael Jordan in it.
I didn't
like
mind it
that.
when I watched it, but I think actually Air is rubbish. I think it is actually. It's a film about fucking shit.
Yeah, it's about
it's really
shit.
actually. It's complete. Air is what it is. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's insubstantial. It's fairy dust. Rubbish.
Well, there you go. Those are some great sports movies. This
Yeah.
next one is
Hey,
for.
wait,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
I haven't finished yet. I was saying, you know,
We named like 10.
yeah. Well, Senna, the documentary,
Yes,
I think
yeah.
is great, which I know is a documentary. Invictus. Again, technically,
Yeah.
it's about so much more than rugby, but it's also about.
Matt Damon.
I've never seen Friday Night Lights, which is what a lot of people talk about. The Swimmers is a film that everyone recommends to me, which is meant to be amazing. I, Tonya, would you count that as a sports movie?
He's kind of like a
Biopic,
biopic,
yeah.
really. But yeah, technically.
Someone
sports.
put
Oh,
on-
Blades of Glory. Speaking of ice skating, love Blades of
apparently-
Glory. That's a good sports movie.
Uncut Gems is here as a sports movie. It's not, but I can see how
Not
it
a sports,
feels
'cause
like
it's
a
it's
race.
sports adjacent because it's because of the NBA Player Association.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why.
of
That's what
course.
Google's done. It's found the word NBA in its description, and it's gone. Yeah, sports movie.
I like you have to translate Google. Sorry, I'm done now.
Google got worse. This next one is from Lexi. He says, "Hello, George and James. James and George. I'm currently writing to you both as I'm sitting waiting to take my final exam of the season, National 5 Scottish exams." God, I would be just like locked in. I'd be looking at my notes at the very last minute. But you know,
Is she meaning to just say that like literally she's about to go in?
as I'm sitting waiting to take my final exam of this season.
Wow.
And this is the National
She's
5
decided to use
Scottish
her
exams.
instead of cramming in some notes.
Yeah.
on her, she's decided to. You know what?
invaded Poland in 19.
I'm gonna email Pulp Kitchen.
Yeah.
Why did you get an F, Lexi? What happened before the exam? You were
Look,
so
they
well
read my
prepared.
email.
Yeah, but they read my email out.
Best of luck and just
Yeah.
condolences to everyone doing exams at the moment.
Yeah.
It will end, and
Yeah, you're doing.
just get through them,
Yeah.
trudge along,
Do your best.
do your best.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just it's not. It's not the end of
sympathise.
everything.
I horribly still associate like the spring summer period with like the dread. I sometimes like clutch my thing. Oh, I've got an exam.
Yeah.
Because for years,
May.
teachers being like,
Yeah.
these exams are coming. It always kind of put a stain on the summer a little bit
Yeah.
because it was really warm out. And you'd be playing outside, but like there were also the exams that hung over you. Oh, I'm so glad I'm a grown up. That's one thing I really like about being a grown up is I don't have to do exams.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you both for your podcast being constantly there for me to listen to. Whether it's learning French vocab or practicing maths questions, you guys are always there ready to bring film reviews and analysis, which is easy to follow. As a 15-year-old and finishing up my exams this time, I've been neglecting my film watching due to my studies, but now they're about to be over. I was wondering if you guys had any recommendations for films I could watch about this time in my life, coming out of age, fear of growing up, etc.
Coming of age.
Fear of growing up, etc. I hope you both have some ideas, but if not, don't worry. P.S. George, I was the one who you DM'd.
She DM'd me.
You were in my dream.
George, I was the one who DM'd you that you were in my dream.
PPS, hi James. I feel bad for only giving George a PS. That's okay. Sirens on our end. All the best. Lexi, with a huge attached photo of Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction, but with Quentin Tarantino's face photoshopped over it, glaring into the lens. Thank you very much.
And now I will just have to assume that is what Lexi looks like.
That is Lexi.
She's
yes.
walking around with a bowl cut, looking like Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. So, coming of age films, George, for someone to watch when they are 15.
Loads. It's such a big genre.
Loads.
Come on. Ferris
We've said
Bueller's
this a
Day
million
Off.
times, but like 8th Grade is a great recent one about the internet, which I really like.
American
Stand By Me.
American Pie, actually.
American
Just
Pie.
the first one. Like it has
I
that
think
kind of
American
movie school
Pie, I
thing.
have like a sad nostalgia for a part of life that I think is like really missing, like pre-smartphone, high school. Obviously, like American high school, I wasn't a part of, but like that generation of school and college experience, I think is like kind of sacred and no longer around. Not to get all sort of like
Lady Bird.
dour.
Lady Bird. Great coming of age film. Probably the best recently.
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller's, as I said.
Boyhood, you're a big fan of?
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's not. Oh, yeah, it's coming of age film actually, but I wouldn't associate it necessarily because it's about his entire entire childhood.
Dead Poets Society?
Yeah, you're right. I need to rewatch that. I kind of have mixed. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yes, I liked it. Do I find it a bit twee? You know what?
It is twee.
I've seen it once 15 years ago.
Mean Girls?
Yeah,
Angus Songs and
Easy
Perfect
A.
Snogging. Easy A, yeah. Lexi, thank you so much for your email. Thank you to everyone.
And the Netflix drama Adolescence.
Oh,
Booksmart.
Very important show.
I quite liked Adolescence, actually. That's quite good.
Thank you to everyone who sent us an email this week. We still have actually quite a few emails to go through, but as always, you can send them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and that will be read out on a future episode of the show. Or you can support us on the VIP tier on Patreon, have priority access to have your email read out on the show, or you can just support us at the Siren tier, which is cheaper on Patreon, and get access to our exclusive news show, weekly, Double Take. It's fun. We talk more about like news, industry, movements, theories, delays.
But
What
do the
directors
VIP
doing.
tier.
But yeah, you can. The VIP tier is obviously great. You should have a look at that. Any support level is
Any
obviously-
support is very welcome. Thank
and
you.
that is the best way to support us. So as always, we thank you for doing that. George, should we end Pulp Kitchen with a game?
Yes, please.
George, as always, Pulp Kitchen ends
With a game.
With a game. Common Denominators
Yes.
is back. We've been enjoying it on social media. A lot of praise for how quickly you've been getting the
Yes,
Common
thank you.
Denominators. So I've tried in this round to make it a bit harder. Question, yes.
No, I was just going to say, yes, some people did say in the comments, they were like, was this the way it was edited or was it George's recall?
Think a
It
bit-
was my No, it was
Is there a
my
bit
recall.
tightening in there?
No, I think it was
Is it a recall?
You know, he didn't need to be tightened in the edit
Yeah.
because I got it so tightly.
And also some people commenting, these guys only do movies from like after the year 2000. I will just say the nature of the game means that like the number of actors who've had careers that span into the 80s and 90s is fewer and fewer.
Yeah.
And it's harder to do to make them hard. It's
Yeah.
more iconic. Anyway, I'm just saying, give me a fucking break. George, are you ready to play Common Denominators?
Let's
You have
do
to
it.
guess the film from the common denominator. For example, oh God, I haven't done an example one. If I was to say Goodfellas,
Yes.
Meet the Fockers,
Yes.
and The Irishman,
I'd say Robert De Niro.
because he's the common denominator in all
Yes.
those films. George, are you ready? Let's play.
the common denominator.
George, you have to guess the common denominator in all of these films. Batman Returns, Hairspray, Stardust.
Danny DeVito?
No.
Christopher Walken?
No.
Batman Returns, is that
Yes.
the Catwoman, the second
Yes.
one? Say them again. What, Hairspray?
Hairspray, Batman Returns, and Stardust.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes, that's correct. She is the common denominator. Love Actually, Batman Begins, Ted 2.
Katie Holmes?
No.
Amanda Seyfried? Liam Neeson?
Yes, that's correct. He is the common denominator. Dune Part 2, Skyfall, The Little Mermaid 2023.
Javier Bardem.
Yes, that's correct. He's the common denominator. Nocturnal Animals, Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging, Nosferatu.
Nicholas Hoult. No.
No.
Nocturnal Animals. Ida Fisher?
No.
Amy Adams?
No. Nocturnal Animals,
Yeah.
Angus Thongs and Perfect
Not
Snogging,
seen that.
and Nosferatu.
Nocturnal Animals, Nosferatu. Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes, that's correct. X-Men First Class, The Menu, About a Boy.
Nicholas Hoult.
Correct. He's the common denominator. Jerry Maguire, Snow Dogs, Boys in the Hood.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
That's correct. He is the common denominator. Last one. Charlie's Angels, original one. Kill Bill Volume 1, Lucky Number 11.
Charlie's Angels, Kill Bill Volume 1, Lucy Liu.
Yes, that's correct. She is the common denominator. Well done. Well
hard,
done.
actually.
You got that. I did try to make it harder.
Because you chose so many films that have massive casts.
Like Love Actually.
Yeah.
Liam
and,
Neeson.
and I hadn't seen some of them. And so I got all of them.
You did get all of them.
You were patient as well with giving me time.
Yes.
Whoa,
Got you there with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer's got a really varied career. She's done a lot of fun stuff, a lot of serious stuff.
Good varied.
Yeah,
not very like up and down in quality.
No, I mean like in terms of genres and like Hairspray is a fun film. Batman Returns is a comic book film.
And
exactly.
also Christopher Walken is in Batman Returns.
And he's in Hairspray.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
And no, is he in Is Christopher Walken in Stardust? No. He could be. Find out for me if Christopher Walken
that was my
is in
first
Stardust. He feels like he really could be. I know De Niro's in it. I don't think he is.
Yeah, he's not.
Okay.
But I think that's why it's a good throw off.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Walken could be knocking around Stardust. Shout out to Stardust. Stardust is great.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant.
Heard great things about it.
It's really, really good.
Young Charlie Cox in there.
Yes. And a Henry Cavill. A blink and you miss it, Henry. Well, not really. He's in a scene, but
a long blink.
A nod off, and you'll miss it, Henry Cavill.
A nap and you'll miss it.
Henry Cavill. That was the game for today. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to Pulp Kitchen. Don't forget, we post new episodes of this podcast every single Wednesday.
And if you fancy a little bit more, don't worry that, well, that's not a sentence. And if you fancy a bit more, we have the exclusive show that we have on Patreon, which is Double Take, where we talk about all the news that's happening in the film industry. We also have our Instagram and our TikToks, where there's more stuff to see on there.
Just by the time you listen to this, we put out some content with Alexander Skarsgård, who we got to talk about for his new Apple TV Plus show, Murderbot, and he was lovely.
Yeah.
And also, to this day, the weirdest Film Bites guest we've ever had. Again, in a really nice way.
Fun.
Because he just did the whole thing unseriously, deadpan.
Aloof.
He's like, watch my show. Murderbot.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. But he walks in the room and we always, when we do now get celebrity talent, we've never expected them to understand exactly what we're doing or to have ever heard of us or have ever seen our videos. So when we walked in, I was like, hey, did you by any chance get a chance to read over what we were doing today? And he was like, no, sorry, I'm a bad actor. I don't know what's going on. But just very
fun.
Chilled out, fun. Took it really in a silly way.
It's like, if he hadn't done the prep, but that's fun because he brought a good attitude and a good mentality.
Really funny. So
and we had a nice couple of minutes talking to him about the Northman.
He talked
afterwards.
about the Northman afterwards.
Yeah.
He's talking about doing the one take where he catches the thing and the complications for it.
So difficulty, and then we had to, because there was a bump in the camera, we had to do it 25 times.
Oh, and he's gorgeous. There's a moment he looked into my eyes and recommended me a show, and I ended up giggling because he was so piercing. He's a gorgeous,
great blue
gorgeous
eyes,
man. But yeah, fun like that on the social. So we will see you next week. Thank you very much to our producers, Finn and Dave.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye, guys.